Part one.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. You got in touch with Aswath Garu?
Yes, he is going to join and give me a few minutes and
Okay,
setting up the system.
fine. Thank you. 1 second. Aswath is going to talk. Aswath is going to be giving the talk. Just now on Saraswati.
నమస్కారం సాగర్ గారు.
సాగర్ బాగున్నారా?
బాగున్నాను. మీరు?
పర్వాలేదు, చల్తా హై.
నమస్కారం, హ్యాపీ దీపావళి.
నమస్కారం అశ్వత్.
నమస్కారం అశ్వత్.
నమస్కారం ప్రియనాథ్.
After
హ్యాపీ
long time.
దీపావళి everybody.
Happy Deepavali. Good to see you after a long time.
Same here, same here.
You have been traveling quite a bit?
Yes, quite a lot. I spent a week with a week with my sister in California. Then I had to go to Indianapolis, then West Virginia, and finally I'm back in Orlando.
Oh, very good.
Then next week I'm coming back to Chicago. I'll
Oh,
be
very
there.
good. We would love to see you. Okay.
Oops.
Did you say you went out of the country also?
No, I didn't go out of the country. It was pretty much in the country. Yeah.
You are now in Orlando?
Now, yeah, now I'm in Orlando. Yes.
How's the weather there?
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. 70 degrees, light breeze, sunny. No complaints.
No, here also it says somewhat cooler, but otherwise it's not that cool. Not yet.
No,
Maybe
it
after
won't.
Thanksgiving,
Yeah, probably in Orlando by January, February, it will become a little cooler. But so during the day. Mhm. How is Chicago? I'm coming next week. I'm sure it's cold.
Well, it's in 50s now. Today it was. I think it'll be in that range.
Anyway,
You're,
I'm used to Midwest weather, so I'm no stranger. So
That's right. That's right.
Yesterday it was 85 degrees.
Yeah, here in Chicago.
I see. I see.
Today, because of the rain, day before yesterday 85, yesterday 75. That is because of the rain rolled in, and it's going back to 60, 65 also.
Okay. Okay. I will be there on Friday evening, and I'll return on Sunday. So I'll just be there for a day and a half or so. Let us see if I can come to the temple, if possible.
Oh, no problem. We were there today for the Lakshmi Puja in the morning.
Yes.
It's 8 o'clock. Namaskar.
No. We had the one in the somewhere around the noon time. The Aarti was around 12:30. I mean, it was supposed to be 12:30, but he ended around 1:30. So
It happens, yeah.
So
And today it's also
Namaskaram.
Deepavali, so I expect Deepavali and Halloween. So I expect that a lot of people will be busy. So we may not have much attendance today, but our mission will not stop.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Namaskaram, sir. It's 8 o'clock. I think, it's,
Shall we start?
Yes.
I think we can.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to again initiate and invite Aswath Garu to give the continuous lectures. Last time he has been speaking about Vaak Devi Saraswathi, and it's a continuation of that program. And we all know Aswath Garu's contributions and his knowledge, and we are very, very thankful to you, Aswath Garu. We look forward to continue listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I start?
Yeah, you can go ahead and start.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Dear friends, a very hearty welcome to the 21st monthly presentation in the Sanatana Dharma series of the Hindu Temple of Greater Chicago. It is also the second talk in our study of Devi, Vaak Devi, Saraswathi. My very sincere thanks to the temple for having me here once again. And I also take this opportunity to wish you all a very, very happy Deepavali. In the last session, we started contemplating on Vaak Devi. Vaak Devi was a name that was given synonymously in the Vedas to Devi Saraswati. And then we saw in our last session that this Saraswati was manifested by a whole galaxy of devatas. Usually, one or the other devata will give manifestation to a devata, another devata, or to a rishi. But this is Saraswati is extraordinarily unique. She is created by a number of devatas. This is what we saw towards the end of last class. Brahma, the creator, Indra, who is the king of all the gods, Vayu, the prana of the entire creation, Shiva, the one who brings auspiciousness, the Gandharvas, who are the repositories of music and fine arts, then Uma, who is the devata who gives Brahmajnana, the one who gives the knowledge of Parabrahman, as we have seen in the Kena Upanishad. Then Gayatri Devi, through whom a person meditates to get the vision of the absolute. It is all these devatas who have come together and to create speech and to create the Devi of the speech, Vaak Devi. And because she is flowing through all these devatas, gathering the eminence of each one of them, from Brahma she gathers the creative ability. That is why a person who is blessed by Saraswati can be extremely creative. And then there is Indra, who brings enormous amount of strength. So when a person speaks with the blessing of Saraswati, his speech, his communication ability will be extremely powerful. Then Vayu, the word Vayu comes from the Sanskrit root Vaya Bandhane. That means that which harmonizes and brings everybody together. So from Vayu, she inherits the capacity to bring everybody together, to harmonize variety of forces. And then Shiva is the one who grants auspiciousness. And then Gandharva is the one who gives music, literature, and the fine arts and dance and some of those areas. And she gets from that. And from Uma, she gets Brahmajnana. And from Gayatri, she gives us the vision. So you can imagine as each one of these devatas have created, Saraswati inherits the most eminent aspect of each one of these devatas. That is why she becomes one of the most important devatas for worship, for anybody seeking knowledge, for anybody looking for articulate speech, for anybody who wants to uplift oneself and the society. And all these things are accumulated, true. But at the same time, it must also flow. It must flow into every recipient. And therefore, she is also associated with the river Saraswati, which is, of course, no longer there. Saraswati really means one that flows. So you can imagine the eminence of Saraswati because of all these devatas contributing to her the best of their ability, and also it is flowing. And therefore, our prayer is such a Saraswati actually enter into our speech, into our walk, so that our speech also becomes like Saraswati herself. It must become divine, it must become perfect, and it must become cultured. Anyone who wishes to have these qualities must worship Saraswati, and not just worshipping in a religious, ritualistic manner, but to realize that what she is made up of. And therefore, there is a beautiful prayer for Saraswati in Sanskrit. And that prayer, usually we chant, Patuvo Nikashagrava Matihimna Saraswati Prajna Itara Parichedam Vachasaiva Karotiya. So what this means is, suppose I talk. As soon as I open my mouth and speak, the listener will be able to assess and evaluate the quality of my learning. What I know and how I am communicating is immediately known by the listener, by an enlightened listener. So we pray, Hey Saraswati, Devi Saraswati, you are the one who subjects my mind to the touchstone. Touchstone is the one used by jewelers to test the content and the quality of gold. So they rub the golden piece or the gold ornament on this touchstone, and then they will determine the quality of that gold. So here, Hey Saraswati, you are that touchstone. Grava means stone. Nikashagrava means touchstone. You are the touchstone for the gold of my mind. Matihimna Saraswati. As soon as my speech comes out of my mouth, Saraswati, what she does is she subjects my mind to this touchstone. And immediately, when I speak, whether I am speaking with the wisdom, prajna, itara, or I am speaking foolishly, prajna, itara, parichedam, you classify. The moment I open my mouth, you classify my speech into one coming from wisdom, then mind is golden. Or is it coming with no substance whatsoever, then it is a different metal, useless. And this, Hey Saraswati, Vachasa eva karoti, you do just with the speech only. So, Hey Devi Saraswati, you please remain in my mind and then change it into a golden mind so that whenever I speak, it is always a speech of wisdom. Patavo Nikashagrava Matihemna Saraswati Prajnetara Parichedam Vajasaiva Karotiya. In other words, our speech reveals our mental acuity. It is either wise or it is otherwise. Therefore, in this prayer, we are asking Devi Saraswati, before I open my mouth, you make my mind golden in nature, so that when I speak and it comes out of me, it reveals the wisdom and not something silly or useless. So this is prayer for Saraswati, to make our mind gold, and that becomes the touchstone of wisdom. And how does she do it? It is because look at how she is formed. She is formed with the association of these energies of these several devatas. That is why we use a word for Brahman. You might have heard this word Shabda Brahma. That is Brahma as the sound. Omkara, Shabda Brahma. This Shabda Brahma, it is the primeval Vaak, which is the manifestation of Saraswati with the association of these gods. So the gods have actually created this Saraswati. Now the question is, she has to descend into us. She has to come down into us. She will not come easily. We have to worship, we have to pray and say, please come and then enter into my being. Without that prayer, she will not come into us. This is why you will see a lot of people speaking a lot of things on careful analysis is absolutely worthless. Why is it? Because Saraswati has really not descended into those people. Therefore, we have to pray, please come down into my being. Because she is Anantam, that is, she is still unarticulated. She is in the absolute infinite state. She is undivided, and she is staying only as the cause of all causes as far as speech is concerned. She is still there as a basis of communication, just like there is a foundation under a building and the foundation is not seen. Like that, Saraswati is there, unseen but ever present. And then I ask her, please come down, please come in me. And how does she trickle down? The Rigveda creates a beautiful format of how she trickles down. And we can follow that, that methodology also. First and foremost, she says, Ekaksharam. She comes as just one single syllable. Eka, one, akshara, one syllable, one letter. Ekaksharam. So if any of you have seen the origin of major rivers, whether it is Gangotri, origin of Ganga, Yamunotri, origin of Yamuna, I have seen origin of Kaveri river. You will see that the amount of water is there is just about a small pot you can collect, just about maybe a liter, at the most a gallon of water. That is how much it is at the origin of the river. So you see in Gangotri, just very, very little water. Maybe there is a small hole in the earth, 1 foot by 1 foot. But when it comes down into the plains, look at the amount of water it has got. That metaphor let us apply to Saraswati's descent. She comes with Ekaksharam. And this Ekakshara is the sound A. Because our Shastras say, Akaro Vishnuvachakaha. The preserving force in the universe is Vishnu, and that Vishnu is represented as A. A also means in Sanskrit one that protects. Avati, Rakshasi, the one who protects. Our speech protects us. With our speech, with our the tongue, we can live a very long life, prosperous life, or our life can be cut short right away only by speech. Ekakshara. And by using the proper speech, she protects us. And then she permanently exists. Our articulated sound comes out and it disappears. But the idea, the concept, the presence of wisdom lasts forever. So first it starts with one letter, ekaksharam. Then it becomes dvipadam. See the flow. Now the river has come down a little bit, collected a little more of the water. Saraswati has collected a little more momentum. And in that momentum, she becomes Dvipadam. She gets 2 feet. So she starts moving. And that is Laukika and Vaidika Shabda. Laukika means that everyday secular transactional speech. Then Vaidika, based on the Veda, based on knowledge, and 2 kinds of branches Saraswati takes. Dvipadam. And it also indicates as soon as the one akshara becomes 2, it is a secular word and the spiritual word. Laukika and Vaidika Shabda. And what does it indicate? It indicates Nama, Rupa, name and form. When name is there, we can conjure up form. When form is there, we give name. So Nama, Rupa, as soon as Nama, Rupa are there, then what happens? Immediately manifestation takes place. The universe itself gets created. And when Nama Rupa takes place, automatically Tripadam, the 3rd foot, will come out. What is the 3rd foot? It is Kriya, action. Wherever there is Nama, there is Rupa, there is Kriya. So Brahma, who participated in creating this Saraswati, he represents the Ekakshara, 1. Indra, who gives us the strength, represents the 2nd Akshara, that is Dvipada. Then the other group of the Devatas will come and contribute and include activity and action. All that a boss has to say to the employee, you do this. How does he do it? Through word. But what does that word, what is the effect of that word? The kriya or activity takes place. Otherwise, Shabda and Kriya, how do they get connected? A word is connected with action. How is it possible? It is because of this Saraswati, Ekaksharam, Dvipadam, Tripadam. Then the Veda mantra also says Shatpadam. It goes into 6 ways. What are the 6 ways in which language unfolds itself? We have vowels, we have consonants, we have vowels and consonants coming together making a word. Then words also represent the gender, masculine, feminine, neuter. And it also creates the number. And it also creates the case endings, nominative case, vocative case, dative case, etc. So Shatpadam, look at the 6 ways. See, the stream is picking up now. Swara, Vyanjana, Pada, linga, vachana, vibhakti. This is how our speech, if there is a blessing of Devi Saraswati, when we speak Shatpadam, in a conglomeration of these 6 qualities of Devi Saraswati will come out in my speech. It will be a perfect arrangement of letters, an accurate creation of the words, an appropriate utterance of the gender, number, and case. Communication becomes perfect. It is possible only by the grace of Saraswati. Therefore, shades of Saraswati's grace also can be there. When a speech is perfected and refined, we call it as Sanskritam. When it is yet to be refined, it is in the process of getting refined, we call that language as Prakrita. Prak means before. Krita means before perfecting a language as Sanskritam. Before that, what was there? Prakrita. So Prakrita becomes Samskrita. And then there is also colloquial speech is there. It's called Apabhramsha. Then animals also have a way of communicating. Anybody who has got a pet can understand how well an animal can communicate. And there is Pashu Bhasha, there is Paishachi Bhasha. Then there are also rustic languages called Gramya. So all of these things, Swara, Vyanjana, Pada, Linga, Vachana, Vibhakti, Shatpadam, Ekaksharam, Dvipadam, Shatpadancha, says the Veda mantra on Vaak Devi. All of this started with one sound, Ekakshara, and this is the Spota theory, that is the bang, the first sound, entire creation takes place, and that is possible because of this Vaak Devi Saraswati. Then how do we use this Saraswati's blessing? It is with the words that oblations are offered and also received. When you want to invoke the Devatas and you oblations, the only word we can use is Swaha. No other word can be applied to invoke the Devatas. To invoke the forefathers, the mains, you have to use the Swadha. Then, in the ritual of Shraddha, we invoke, at least we invite for performing the Shraddha 2 Brahmins to participate. One of the Brahmanas will take the position of the forefather who is being worshipped. It is called Pitrasthana. Then you have got one more Brahmana who is called the Vishvedeva Sthana, the place of the Vishvedevas. Now, here comes Saraswati. In all activities done with Shraddha, any activity done with Shraddha is Shraddha. So please don't misunderstand that the word Shraddha in popular language, it means a rite that we do to invoke our forefathers every year. But anything that we do with Shraddha has the presence of 10 of them. Now you see how 1 became 2, became 3, became 6, and now they become 10. This is the Saraswati, this is the flow. We are able to get a place to live, a dwelling place. It is called Vasu, is one of the Devatas of the 10, number 1. Number 2, Satyam, truth. Number 3, Kratu, which is willpower, intelligence, and offering of oblations, Yajna. Number 4, Dakshata, skill and efficiency. Number 5, kala or time. Number 6, kama, desire and the desirable. Then number 7, dhriti, steadfastness and forbearance. Number 8, kuru, the ancestor. And number 9, Pururava means a dwelling of abundance, a city of abundance, a society of abundance. And the 10th one is called Madrava, where you cry with delight and with joy. These are the 10 Vishwe Devatas who are invoked through this Brahmana in a Shraddha, but actually we are worshipping these 10 qualities of Saraswati. And then by a perfectly articulated speech, by the grace of Saraswati, all of these are obtained. For anyone who has the grace of Saraswati, what are the benefits? There will be communication ability, not just with humans. Communication with humans is of wonderful value, no doubt about it. But really, when Saraswati's grace is there, they will be able to communicate with gods, devatas, with the Gandharvas, the demigods, with fellow beings, Manushyas, with the Pashu, with beasts and animals, and Pakshis, and even the birds. And this is well known to us. There are animal trainers. Those animal trainers, all kinds of beasts are actually tamed and they are able to communicate. An elephant, an extremely powerful animal, is tamed and it obeys the mahout, whatever he says. So a horse, so a dog. So you can imagine that there is a quality of Saraswati. Because of that, an animal trainer can train an animal and is able to understand the language of that animal. In fact, it is said that Sahadeva, one of the Pandava brothers, was an expert in knowing the Ashwahridaya, how a horse thinks. Another brother, Nakula, it seems, was capable of knowing how an elephant thinks. So that means the person is able to communicate not just with fellow beings, but all beings of all realms. There's a beautiful story in the Upanishads. It seems there was a king by name Janashruti, and this Janashruti was a very charitable giver, an extremely charitable giver. He had built several rest houses all over his kingdom. We call it as Dharmasatra. He had arranged for large quantities of food to be served to all the needy. And because of all this, he had acquired enormous amount of merit, punya, and he had the anugraha blessing of Saraswati, so he could understand and communicate with even animals and birds. And his fame spread not only among human beings, but even among the animals. Because for all his dharmasatras, even animals used to congregate. This you know very well. Because if there is a party in your house, especially in India, what we do is we take all the remaining food and then put it in the garbage. Then animals will come and eat. Birds will come and eat. So similarly, Janashruti had created this extraordinary organization where a lot of people would be there and they would eat. One evening, King Janashruti was resting on the terrace of his palace. Two swans flew in above the terrace, and they were very beautiful to look at, and they had a very graceful flight. And Janashruti was looking at them with great admiration. Then one of the swans told its companion in its own language, in the swan language. It said to the other person, You blind, short-sighted fellow, don't you see the brilliance of this King Janashruti sitting there, which has spread across the sky like a sun? Sun's splendor is there in the sky, shining on the earth. But what about Janashruti? Janashruti's luster had lighted up the sky, just as you would with a strobe light. Such was Janashruti's brilliance. The companion bird replied, this King Janashruti is not equal to the cart puller Raikva. And Janashruti is listening to this. He is able to understand the language of the swans. Then he starts wondering. Then the second bird says, the first bird, swan, asks the second one, who is this Raikva? How can anybody be greater than Janashruti? The other swan said, Raikva is the one who pulls carts in the market. He is the one who a transporter and living with his by pulling the carts. His eminence is such that whatever good anybody else does, actually it accrues to Raikwa. So friends, please note here, whatever merit that Janashruti is doing is being enjoyed by other fellow beings, other people. That means his punya of having become the king and having the resources to feed and host many people, he is distributing among the people. But this is the reverse. If anybody anywhere does any charitable work, if anybody anywhere does something good, the merit of that good quality will go and accrue to Raikwa. The swan says, how can you ever compare Raikwa to this king Janashruti? And of course, Janashruti was very curious to know who this is. That we will see when we study that Upanishad. So basically here the idea is the language which results in action. When it is blessed by Saraswati, at one stage it can bring merit to the speaker. In another way, any good thing that is done can actually accrue to the one person who is blessed by Saraswati. That's what it's important here. Now, next question that arises is, wonderful, but how can I get such a blessing from Saraswati? How is it possible? Because we all do Saraswati Puja, we all are committed to learning. We spend our whole lifetime in learning our subject, whatever specialty that we have chosen, and we continue to share that with others. In spite of this, why is it that we don't experience the full blessing of Devi Saraswati? For that, our Vedic sages say, you can get that only by premam vacham maitri Vaak. Only when, from the depth of a person's heart, the speech comes out of love for fellow beings. There must be genuine and deep love for our fellow beings. Premam vacham. It is not enough if we have love in our hearts. It must also be pleasant for his listener. It's called Maitri Vaak. So pleasant, Premam Vacham, and Maitri Vaak, when with all the beings a person uses the skill of speaking with the love, prema, and maitri and friendship, Saraswati Kataksha, the blessing of Saraswati comes to us in great abundance. There are teachers, for instance, who are very, very rough. There are teachers who are very stern. There are teachers who put down the students in front of their classmates. The student will learn and give respect to the teacher because of the teacher's eminence. But just imagine if the same teacher with the same capacity of teaching does it with prema Vaak and maitri Vaak, what kind of students a teacher will be able to bring out into the world. That can happen only when there is Saraswati Kataksha. You would have heard of the great English romantic poet Shelley, P.B. Shelley. P.B. Shelley was one of the extraordinary poets of the 19th century. It is such a loss that his life was very short. He died at a very, very young age of just 29 years. He had a lot of problem with his kidneys and so on and so forth. So he died just when he was 29 years. But extraordinary poet. There is a beautiful poem he has written. He has called Epipsychidion. Epipsychidion is a work by Shelley. He writes about Maitri or friendship. From the depth of human fantasy, as from 1,000 prisms and mirrors, fills the universe with glorious beams and kills error. I just picked up a short quote from Shelley. See, one Maitri Prema Vaak is something similar to, suppose you stand in a room with the mirrors on all the sides. Then have you noticed that your actually image will be reflected infinitely when you have two mirrors on both the sides? There will be infinite number of images. And what Shelley is saying is, as though there are 1,000 prisms and mirrors, the whole universe is filled with 1,000 prisms and mirrors, all the time reflecting our speech infinitely. But when there is the Maitri Vaak, when there is Prema Vaak, what it does, the glorious beams of that word, actually it will kill error, misunderstanding, and it will kill evil. So the Veda Mantra says, the Vaak Sukta says, Premam Vacham Deva Upajivanti Vishve. Vishve, in the universe, Devaha, the Devatas, what is the food for them? All the Naivedya we do in our temples and at homes, a Devata will not consume. Is there a single evidence where a particular deity who is in the stone in the temple has eaten the offering that you have given? So what do they eat? What do these devatas eat when you do Naivedya? Premam Vacham Upajivanti. Upajivana means livelihood. What is the livelihood for gods? It is when we employ Premam Vacham, when we call Saraswati, when we invoke the devatas with true love, with true opening of the heart, come into me. And then Saraswati comes. The Veda says, we must discover that quality of speech. It is discovering the quality of speech, because we can all say we are able to talk, but we do not know speech. We know how to talk. Do we know speech? That's the question the Vedic Rishi is asking. We have to discover this. We take for granted that when we speak, it is Vaak. Our speech, it does not meet the standards of our rishis. So what is the effort required? The Rigveda says, Yam rishayo mantra krito manishinaha anvaichan tapasa shramena tam devim havisha yajamahe sa no dadatu sukritasya loke. Simple Sanskrit. Yam mantrakritaha manishinaha rishaya. Those rishis who actually were those who visualized the mantras, and those rishis who are actually manishinaha. What is the meaning of manishi? One who is the lord of his own mind. I am not the lord of my mind. Actually, my mind is my lord, because the mind will go whatever it wants to, and I follow the mind. Whereas a manishi has the mind under control. These manishinaha, who are the lords of their minds, capable of controlling their minds, what they did, they just did not take it for granted. They did not take it for granted, okay, I have discovered this mantra, but then anvaichan tapasa shramena. They did research by means of deep thinking tapasa and by hard work shramena. And they got Saraswati. We got only talk. But I did not get Saraswati because I have not put in that tapas, that shrama, and then the buddhi shakti, that is the analytical ability, the dharana shakti, that is the retentive ability, can be sharpened only by means of tapas and by effort. And if that is done, like these rishis did, Anvaichan, they discovered Vaak, Devi, Saraswati. So the message of this entire section of meditation on Vaak, Devi, Saraswati is, it is urging us to rediscover that Saraswati by tapasa shramena, and then invoke that Saraswati into ourselves, so that she becomes the touchstone of my mind, constantly verifying whether it is golden mind before a word is uttered. Patuvo nikashagrava. So let's simplify the process given by our sages. First and foremost, through abhyasa vairagya, one gains control on the mind and becomes a manishi. Thanks to Patanjali Maharshi for giving this first step. Now, this is strengthened by two practices. One is constant study of the scripture called Swadhyaya, and secondly, a constant practice of noble conduct, Sadachara. So, Abhyasa Vairagya has to be strengthened by Swadhyaya and Sadachara. Then the third level is there must be in-depth contemplation called Tapas. Then the fourth one is by Shramena, there must be an effort to get accurate knowledge. When this four-step process takes place, the Veda says, then we discover this Devata Vaak Devi. Otherwise, the river Saraswati, just as the river Saraswati has gone underground, and only manifests here and there as a lake. Our buddhi also will have some short bursts of brilliance, but constant brilliance, such as the rishis. Then this Vaak Devi, by this four-step methodology, the sages say, has to be invoked into ourselves. Then she will establish us in Sukritasya Loke, in the Loka of the noble people. Imagine a Raikwa. A Raikwa, wherever people are doing good things, the merit will accrue to him. That is the Sukritasya Loke. Now, this whole concept is dramatized in the story of Vishwamitra, which I talked about in one of our earlier presentations. First, he becomes a Rajarshi. When he becomes a Rajarshi, his viewpoint is what is good for the nation. Desha Hita Drishti. First step, Vishwamitra shows. The second step, he becomes a Devarshi. Devarshi means he gets the knowledge of right and wrong, Rita Jnana, and the knowledge of the Devatas, Devata Jnana he gets. Then he goes to the third step, he becomes a Maharshi. He understands the unifying principles in the creation. That is Rita, order, Satya, truth, Dharma, conduct, Karma, action, and Rita, Satya, Dharma, Karma, relationship. He understands, then he becomes a Maharshi. Then he becomes a Brahmarshi, a master of knowledge. So there is a prayer. Saraswatim chatam naumi, Vaak adhishtatra devatam, devatvam pratipadyante yadanugrahato janaha. Yad anugrahato janaha, by whose grace and blessing people get devatvam pratipadyante, attain the status of a devata, that Saraswati, Naumi, I bow down to her. And how does she make all these things? Vaak adhishtatra devatam, the goddess who is established in speech. And that Saraswati, I bow down so that I can attain that divine status. Just as anybody who prays to Shiva, or Narayana, or Vishnu, or Rama, any temple, any household in the entire world, where does it go? It all goes to Rama, it all goes to Shiva, it all goes to Krishna. Like that, a person in whom Saraswati has blessed, Devatvam pratipadyante yadanugrahato janaha. So, first and foremost, our sages gave a national anthem. Asmin rashtre shuro jayatam. Let this nation has wonderful citizens. Let this be prosperous. And then he becomes a Devarshi. And then we understand the Devata, Adidevata, Pratyadevata of every mantra. Then he becomes a Maharshi. One, there is only one. People call it with different names. Ekam Sat, Vipra, Bahudha Bhavanti. Then he becomes a Brahmarshi, Anoraniyan, Mahato Mahiyan. The smallest of the small, the biggest of the big, and that is right in your own self. Atma guhayam nihitosya jantoho. And thus you will see Saraswati gives us the vision of oneself, of the society, of the variety, and says that everything is in yourself. That has to be discovered. Anvaichan. How? Tapasa shramena. And this focused tapas is what leads to the discovery of Saraswati. Every one of us have to discover Saraswati, rediscover Saraswati, for our speech to become perfect. And this Saraswati, how do we know? is in our speech. What is the metric? That she is in our walk is when that walk, that speech, it bestows knowledge to the ignorant. Number one. It gives joy to the learned. And number three, it results in yajna and it creates a sacredness all around us. And it showers benevolence everywhere. My speech has got Saraswati. How do I know? These are the benchmarks. Does it make an ignorant people learn? Does it give joy to a learned person who is listening? Does it create sacredness everywhere? And does it create benevolence for everybody around us? This ability is hidden in our speech. Because Saraswati is the Gupta Gamini. That is why in our religious tradition, we consider Saraswati as Gupta Gamini. If you go to Prayagraj and then you go at the Triveni Sangama, you can see visually Ganga and Yamuna, but they say Saraswati is Gupta Gamini. And that Gupta Gamini has to be brought out by churning. I am reminded of a beautiful Kannada saying. There is ghee in milk. But if you search for ghee in milk, will you get it? There is sugar in sugar cane. Can you see the sugar in sugar cane? There is the Lord in yourself. But just because you say, Lord is in me, can you see? Can you experience? The saint is saying, you have got to know it exists. You have got to work on that. You have got to anvaichan tapasa shramena. You have got to experiment and discover what works. And then your mind must become absolutely tranquil and joyous. Then you have discovered this nectar within oneself. That's why we have a simple prayer which we teach our children. Sharada Sharadambhoja Vadana Vadanambuje Sarvada Sarvadasmakam Sannidhim Kriyat. In our childhood, every household where some Sanskrit is there, this is taught when a child is 2 or 3 years old. Sharada, Sharam Jnanam Dadati iti Sharada. Sharada means one who gives knowledge. And that knowledge giving Sharada Saraswati, who has a lotus-like face, a beautiful lotus in the autumn, may she in my mouth all the time, the all-giving Saraswati, may she be present in my speech. And there is also a short Veda mantra. Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Vajinivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu. The meaning is, may that Devi Saraswati, endowed with the speed of thinking. It is not only our speech must be of all the qualities we spoke of, but also our thinking must be actually very fast, quick. And then may that Saraswati, who can flow with great current, descend, and then may she move, energize our poor, ignorant thinking and give us vigor. Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajinivati Dhinam Avitriyavatu. Such a Saraswati's blessing, that grace, we let us all anvaichan shramena with these efforts. we have to discover. May we pray the blessing of Saraswati so that she gives us the energy to discover her in our speech and make that speech noble and worthwhile. Thank you. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevava Shishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. Thank you, Parthiban sir, as usual, for your help and support. Thanks to the temple, Sri Narayanan, Sanat Kumar, Dr. Sagar Garu. Thank you for having me, and I wish you all a very happy Deepavali. Namaskaram.
Thank you,
wanna take any
Aswathi. It was
questions?
Thank you.
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy Diwali.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskara.
Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle. Namaskar.
Thank you, Ashwathji. You
Namaskaram.
dispelled a lot of doubts about Saraswati. We just know one or two slokas, but the depth.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Om Sahana
We'll close now.
Sorry. Thank you.
Sagar Garu, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I wanted to request Narayanan and Sanat Kumar to give it thanks. I just wanted to ask make one statement. If Ekaksharam started with a A, when did Om become very important in our Vedic language?
Om, that was the very first sound that came. So we have a saying in Sanskrit, Omkarascha atha shabdascha dvavimau brahmana pura kantham bhitva viryatau tasmat mangalikau ubhau. There is a prayer we will see in all our Shastras. The very first sound that came out of Chaturmukha Brahma was Om. And then that was followed by Atha. Omkara, Atha. These two came out. And therefore they are considered as auspicious. So that is why we see whenever we chant any Veda mantra or study any Veda mantra, we start with Om. And whenever we study any Shastra, we start with Atha. For example, if you are studying Yoga Sutra, it starts with Atha Yoganushasanam. Atha Yoganushasanam. Suppose you are studying the Brahma Sutras, it says Athato Brahma Jijnasa. So like that, first sound that came out of the creation, this is the Big Bang, you can say. It is the Spota theory is one of the words used in Sanskrit. When the first sound came in the creation, it was Om.
Thank you. Sanat Garu, go ahead. Chapali.
Sir, unmute your phone, Sanat Garu.
I think, Sanat, you are muted.
I was requesting you to give a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Sanat is muted, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah. Sagar Garu, you can, give the vote of thanks, right?
I wish to give many thanks to Aswath Garu for enlightening lectures, and on behalf of the organization, Sanat Garu, on behalf of Narayanan, and on the behalf of the temple, we thank you very much. We continue to listen to you, and thank you very much all our audience who participated. and we look forward to your lectures in the future. Thank you very much. Good night.
These two lectures on Saraswati, Dr. Sagar Garu, was at your request.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure everybody loves, but
Thank
Aswath Garu, you have been giving so many stimulating lectures. So simple thought comes that way. You know, other thing I just want to say, Ekaksharam A is very interesting. I know two, three languages besides the Indian language, Urdu, Persian, Arabic. They start alif, ah. So I was wondering if many of the I heard, but I'm not sure. But Sanat Garu, many languages in the world have they started with the alphabet A. Do you know?
Yes, yes, it is actually in Shabda Shastra, that is in linguistics, Sanskrit linguistics. They talk about the sound A. You know, when you open your mouth and blow Vayu, the prana, the sound that comes is only A. If you open your mouth and then make a sound, you comes only as A. And secondly, no other part of the mouth is used. For every others, we have actually in Sanskrit classified Kantavya, those coming from the throat, and then Talavya, Dantavya, like that, and Oshta, where the lips come and touch. For example, Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga, Nga is coming from the throat. Cha, cha, ja, ja, nya, the tongue touch the upper palate.
Gutturals.
So like that, whereas no other part of the body is employed. And therefore, it is called a undefiled sound. It is muddy, if you are, if you can use the technical term, the muddy, it is undefiled sound. Therefore, it is related to the first sound. It is related to Mahavishnu. It is considered as the most auspicious.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bharata, I can now, I think microphone is there. Bharata,
Yes.
America, Punya Bhumyo, Namo Namaha. Happy Deepavali to everybody. Namaskaram.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll conclude the meeting. And then if there is any particular request for next month's talk, please let me know. And
I think there is a hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, if there are any questions or doubts, you can email to Aswath or me or Dr. Sagar or Parthiban. We will forward it.
Sure.
We will conclude the meeting. Good night.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaskar.